Here are terrifying creatures discovered in Iceland that left scientists baffled. Number 10. Ice worms. Deloid rotifers are some of the most fascinating creatures in the world, but their diminutive size means they rarely receive the attention they deserve. Rotifers are extremophiles. They can survive in extreme environments, using something called anhydrobiosis to self-desiccate, sucking the water out of themselves to survive in a variety of environments. This means in extremely hot or dry environments, they don't have the risk of drying out or boiling. But it also may mean that in extremely cold environments, it could help prevent ice crystals from slicing up their cells. But these worms that live directly inside the solid ice of glaciers and bergs also have enzymes and proteins that use the extreme cold conditions to help generate energy. But that's not the terrifying part, though thriving in cold ice is certainly impressive. Deloid rotifers are capable of an incredible feat, something called horizontal gene transfer. Scientists discovered that a whopping 10% of their genetics came from their food. That's right, rotifers are capable of contributing to their own genetics through what they eat. Perhaps when humanity fails and the wider world collapses, in millions of years, the rotifers will rule. Number 9. Red algae. A new species of red algae has been discovered in Iceland, just a few years ago in fact. Now this may not sound interesting at all, except this algae is massive and present all around the coast of Iceland. It grows leaf-like blades down into the water that can be some 13 inches long and 10 inches wide, like some strange inverted aquatic bush. Even more strangely, it is most closely related with a northern Pacific, not Atlantic species of algae, raising questions as to its origins and journey to Iceland. But perhaps the most interesting fact is that Rhodophyta was first discovered in 1900, but misidentified, attributed to a different Atlantic species of algae. Rhodophyta has raised many more questions than it has answered since it was first discovered over 100 years after it was first seen. Number 8. Giant squid. Giant squid are the second largest species of cephalopod in the world, and have the largest range of any of the massive squids. The colossal squid of Antarctica has a larger mantle, but shorter tentacles. Females of this species grow to some 43 feet in length, about 10 feet on average longer than the males, and they seem to be some of the primary hunters of the other squid in the deep, alongside hunting fish. They have 6 regular arms and 2 elongated feeding arms with large clubs on the end, paddle-like masses of flesh that have toothed suckers. They use these tentacles to catch and hook onto prey in the darkness before bringing it to their mouths and using their beaks and radula, a barbed tongue-like rasp, to shred their prey and pass it through their esophagus. Squid are incredibly strange creatures in that their brain is right where their eyes are, but their digestive tract is farther up in the mantle. So squid have evolved to have a ring-like brain that encircles their esophagus, which means if they swallow anything too big, they might stretch their own brains, causing damage. Giant squid are still little understood, though more well understood than colossal squid. We estimate sperm whales eat about 131 million squid annually, which means the deep ocean must be teeming with millions of the predators. Number 7. Hafgufa. Hafgufa was a fearsome sea monster of Icelandic yore that would stick its immense beak out of the water and turn the water to steam, bubbling and boiling it, before snatching up anything it caught in its maw. Stories of this great beast are recorded as early as the mid-1200s from numerous Icelandic sagas. The tales are terrifying, what must be some sort of sea dragon or something. But recently, scientists discovered the fascinating origin to the centuries-old legend: trap feeding. Trap feeding is a fascinating whale hunting method wherein they open their mouths at the surface. Since many fish and other sea creatures see stillness as safety, they begin to use the open mouth as a shelter from danger. Then the whale heaves shut its mouth and swallows hundreds of fish at once. This is likely what ancient sailors witnessed, and the boiling water was the roiling waves caused by hundreds of fish flopping in shallow water. Whales use a vast variety of feeding techniques, and scientists are still working to understand how these are developed or learnt. Number 6. Great spider crab. Great spider crab, like their larger Japanese counterparts, dwell in the deep waters of the ocean. And though they only grow to several feet in diameter, I still think they're pretty terrifying. These crabs engage in migrations, traveling surprisingly long distances to congregate in shallower, safer waters, like in bays. Here they molt en masse in a piled up traffic jam of orange carapaces and limbs. Scientists still aren't sure what mechanism drives these crabs to gather at the same location and time every molt, as many animals have similar behaviors but radically different causes and triggers. These crabs may also camouflage themselves in the manner of other spider crabs, sticking bits of sessile animals like sponges and corals to their shells to help hide from predators. Spider crab, despite their impressive size, feed mainly on mollusks and crustaceans. Number 5. Alaskan lupine. Back in the 60s, much of Iceland was a barren, volcanic desert moonscape. It was so alien, in fact, that NASA used it as a base for their training of astronauts like Neil Armstrong to help them identify, describe, and analyze this strange alien terrain. But today, these volcanic deserts are very different and becoming a threat. The Alaskan lupine, an invasive species of hardy, cold and drought-enduring, beautiful purple flowers, was introduced in 1945 from a briefcase of seeds. It was intended to be used to reinvigorate the potentially rich deserts of volcanic ash. However, in recent years, it has been discovered to be expanding. As the world has warmed, Alaskan lupine has started to push outwards into the usually uninhabitable native ecosystems, slowly killing off and shutting down the native plants. Iceland is divided on this. Some see it as a beautiful purple flower that is spreading and turning the craggy and dark hills into lush purple fields, but others see it as an invader that has destroyed their unique landscape and is now threatening to eviscerate their native plants. Number 4. American mink. American mink are devastating little creatures. Voracious predators, minks, ermines, ferrets, and other mustelids are some of the most successful and vicious creatures on Earth, regularly attacking and eating animals that are significantly larger than they are. The American mink also has the most prized commercial pelt of any animal, and so, since Iceland doesn't have much in the way of agriculture, mink were introduced in 1931 to boost the economy. They were meant to be farmed, not ever to be released into the wild, but mink are intelligent, flexible, burrowing predators, and it was foolish to think they could be contained. In a few short years, they would escape into the wild. The minks escaped and have wrought havoc on the native population since then. Of the 9 native terrestrial animals in Iceland, only one, the Arctic fox, is a predator. However, nearly 100 years later, their reign has begun to come to an end. In part thanks to concerted hunting efforts, and in part thanks to the crashing population of prey. The American mink is declining in Iceland. One mink can cull 300 puffin in a day, but climate change has killed thousands. Without the wild populations of birds and fish, which have suffered heavily under climate change, the mink population is now in full collapse. Number 3. Sperm whales. Sperm whales are massive, highly predatory toothed whales that reach a length of 16 meters at maturity. However, some specimens have been found as large as 24 meters, which is simply immense. Sperm whales primarily hunt giant and colossal squid, and are actually so preferential towards them that most of what we know about these massive squid is from remains found in sperm whale stomachs. However, they will also hunt sharks and rays as well. An elder sperm whale can be identified both by their size and the multitude of scars from ferocious deep-sea battles against colossal and giant squid. However, sperm whales are considered a vulnerable species, though they are recovering better than other whales. In the 20th century, nearly 1 million sperm whales were hunted and caught worldwide, and the global population was estimated to have collapsed to less than 1/3 of its pre-hunted population. They also suffer heavily of parasites, with recent catches being almost entirely infested with parasites in the bowels, blubber, and even placentas. However, overall, sperm whale populations are recovering steadily, something that has stunned and heartened scientists, as other whales like right whales and humpbacks have been struggling heavily with recovering their populations. Number 2. Lagarfljót. For nearly 700 continuous years, there have been sightings of the Lagarfljót worm in the Lake of Lagarfljót, eastern Iceland. In 1345, the creature was first sighted and has been seen and described consistently for centuries since. Even as recently as 2012, when the worm was seen by a 67-year-old local fisherman. No one knows what the worm is or does, only its several sightings and strange lumpy skin. The legend goes that if you leave a heathworm, a common black slug, nestled beside gold, it will grow to incredible sizes, becoming the Lagarfljót worm. Could it be possible that the worm is not in fact then the same one throughout history, but each time has been created and released? We do not know what the answers are, but many are investigating. Well, many for Iceland. It's probably just 3 people in a rubber boat. Number 1. Chlamydia. You heard me right. Scientists discovered chlamydia at the bottom of the ocean off the coast of Iceland. If you know anything about chlamydia, or God forbid have personal experience, you'll know it's a parasite, and parasites need a host. Chlamydia especially thrives on interspecific and interindividual contact to spread and propagate. But apparently that isn't the case for this new chlamydia species that was found, seemingly without any host. Not just that, but the bacteria was incredibly present on the sea floor, in many places being the dominant bacterial life. This means chlamydia is an integral part of this benthic marine ecosystem, but how, why, or what it does is still completely unknown. Those were terrifying creatures discovered in Iceland that left scientists baffled. If you enjoyed, please like, comment, and share, and be sure to follow for more.